Alrighty then. So just wanted to give you a snapshot of who we are. I'm Joe Millward, background in animation and digital, and that's how I perceive myself in the gaming world. Michael.
Yeah, I'm Michael Gjere. I've been in game design and usability design in the video game world for about 15 years. And now I'm at 3M. That's a self-portrait, by the way, and I'm helping 3M come into the modern world.
So I just want to give you a snapshot. We're just about to show a video, which is some of the experiments we've done over the last 12 months. And these are things that have been done across our entire company. So we've got a large organisation. So I'll just play the video. So you can see it's quite a diverse range. Most of our stuff's been done in VR to date. And a lot of it has been done and driven by the marketing team. So it was stuff that we've advised on some elements, but most of it's been actually done independently. Lost my screen.
Where to go?
All right, so what I want to cover today with Michael is these 5 points. So how we're starting to build advocacy in the organisation. The content and tech frameworks we recognise that we're needing to actually start to implement because things are starting to grow and the momentum starting to build, and we're realising that we have to start to wrangle this stuff. Data and analytics, metric and measurements, and then identifying revenue opportunities. So building advocacy, this is sort of where Michael and I have pretty much connected ourselves together. We're a large organisation. I'm based in Australia. Michael's based in Minnesota. We realised quickly that both of us had obviously a background in this space, but there were all these excited marketers and excited 3Mers that were actually going out and building these things without really understanding where they were trying to get, what business outcomes they were trying to build for it. So our first step was to find and foster those enthusiasts. So what we're doing now is actually putting together working groups and working teams to actually start to build some standards, and Michael will talk a little bit more to that. Centralising communication has been absolutely crucial. We've had parts of our organisation that are working on similar projects and not knowing it. So being able to actually have a central place where we can start to talk, and that becomes really critical, especially if you're a large multinational. You want to make sure that you've got that ability to, tell everyone what you're up to before you do it, because it's an expensive exercise if you build the same experience twice. Educate is the biggest thing we've been doing. So making sure that people are understanding what the technology is, because it's a little bit scary for someone who's maybe been 20 years in an organisation and are still struggling with mobile apps or whatever to actually move into this space. It can be quite confronting. Celebrating our successes, so the stuff we are building, we're making sure we're showing everybody, and we're actually celebrating, even though they may be just baby experiments at this stage, at least patting them on the back and saying it's been a great start, and let's work out how we can take it to the next step. And the last thing is to get everyone in a headset. So my goal is to get everyone from the guy who's our janitor all the way through to the CEO inside the headsets and actually understanding it, because unless you get into, obviously everyone here knows that, unless you get into a headset, you don't have any context of what you're actually going to be experiencing.
So visual consistency is something that came from my gaming background. You want to design for each unique experience, but right now all the stuff is really not, there's not a unified look, there's not a unified message from 3M, and we're trying to bring that in. And that includes the models that you use, the UI, all the interfaces, and we want to get people to understand that it can look and feel the same across multiple devices. So, you know, obviously the Vive or the Oculus or the Zapbox or anything has to have a 3M look and feel. It's something that we're trying to bring into our company.
So the other interesting thing we're looking at is the design elements.
Well, the first question is, should it even be in an immersive technology? That's the number one thing. Is it just going to be a roller coaster experience, or is it something that we can actually learn from and actually grow in our company with?
The other interesting point, which is something that probably hasn't actually taken as much forefront, is the importance of audio. So 360 audio, making sure you're understanding how to do that proper spatial audio output is important. A lot of the times, developers aren't thinking like that. They're trying to use visual cues as the mechanisms to actually get people to do something with their space. And what we've started to realise is that audio sensory experience is really important, and it's something that we have to start to instill into our guys to think about that. So they're not just thinking about storyboards, they're also thinking about audio soundboards as well.
And that's really important when you're talking about personal safety equipment. You know, when you're in a dangerous environment, you want people to be able to have an audio cue that they would really have in the real environments. So.
And the next thing we're looking at is developing a corporate immersive design language. We've got a couple of slides coming up which will talk a little bit more about it, but it's been really important to start to build consistency. So we've got over 10 experiences that we've built within the company. All have been slightly different because they've been done by different business units. Everyone's sort of excitedly jumping into this space, but we've quickly realised that we actually have to start to build, you know, what does our 3M design language look like? Working with our branding team to actually start to work out what brand guidelines look like for 3D, which is something that we hadn't thought of before. So that's been interesting. And
herding cats.
Herding cats has been what we've been trying to do. So, and the last point is adding context has been really valuable, especially for the AR space, which we're only just starting to experiment with. You saw the basic HoloLens experience that we started. But if we can start to overlay that contextual information, that'll allow that feedback. And I mean, Audi talked about it before, is actually you know, giving that context for someone, especially if they're in a training environment or they're trying to do something that's new, a new task, giving them that context of why they're doing that task is really important. And this is a great slide. It's from Mike Alger, who's now at Google. For us to actually start to speak to these people who, you know, as I said, may have never even developed a mobile app, you know, are still thinking about how websites work, to actually explain to them what areas they want to build for and look at things like the workspace zone, the content zone, the peripheral zone, the curiosity zone. These are areas of exploration that people have to think about in 3D space. But having these visual cues to give them templates to actually start to use, to think about how would they build an experience and what are we trying to achieve, but also how do we get people to actually navigate a space and experience and experiment. So what I've done, and this has been really helpful for me, is to actually start building a lot of the prototypes in VR itself. So I come from an animation background, 2D originally and 3D, and being able to jump into something and quickly mock up an experience and then chuck in a senior decision maker into the Vive, they actually start to get it a lot quicker, as opposed to trying to articulate a storyboard where if they're not from a creative background, they don't understand what a storyboard really does. They can actually jump into an experience. You know, some of these experiences I built took me like 25 minutes to actually build, but it gives you enough to actually jump into that space, mock up a couple of boxes and say, this is what we're trying to do. And it's much more powerful than actually sort of showing them a storyboard.
And another thing that we're trying to teach people is assets. You don't need to spend $35,000 on an asset that you only use once, and that's what unfortunately happens sometimes. You should be able to have an asset library that you can reuse. Again, it ties back to branding so that you have that unique and consistent look. And we're trying to design modular experiences. For example, if we have a fall safety harness, there's no reason we couldn't take the climbing experience of the fall safety harness, put it onto an oil rig, put it into a construction site, things of that nature, so that we can actually appease all of our customers.
Yeah, the big thing also is, I mean, because we are across 55 countries and the budgets for some of the outputs vary dramatically, I mean, it's great to be able to do stuff in Minnesota where we've got large budgets, but if we've got a small Asian country that wants to be able to build something quickly, and they may not have that budget, if we have a library for them, they're able to then use that library and leverage the work that we're doing as a whole, as opposed to at the moment, because as most big organisations, the communication is a little bit siloed. So we're trying to change that and give them access to everything.
And this is where I nerd out. Everything should be analyzed. Every touch, interaction. You know, you can do heat mapping where you're looking at things. Everything should be tracked so that we can train people. You can go to the next one, I think. Because what it does is it helps us understand how people use it. It understands if people know how to use the products correctly. It helps us understand if we should change our product. And not only that, it helps us figure out if there's something we didn't know. That's what analytics is all about. Oh, thank you. Sorry, he said mic higher.
So, and then looking at that from, it's great to have all this data, and this is why Michael and I sort of tag team is, I've got to then communicate it to the business stakeholders to actually understand what does this data mean. So how do I set realistic KPIs before we build things, like to actually understand what we're trying to do, what is it trying to deliver? Are we trying to improve how we're servicing our customers in training with the product? Are we trying to introduce a new product? Are we trying to discover how we can work in a new way, as Michael mentioned? And those ones are really, it's really important for us to clearly communicate those goals to the stakeholders. But creating reports for the tools we already use. So we're looking at building tools. So our analytics will generate reports which will go into Salesforce. So any of our customers we touch, we get a report sent through to the sales guy. So he actually knows that, okay, they've done an experience, they struggled with this product, or they had a great experience with these products. So it gives him a lot of context to actually then go back and say, I heard you've been doing virtual training, how are you finding it? All right. And then the last thing is, so revisiting those KPIs and adjusting for each project. So if you're actually spending that time to set those KPIs, are we delivering on them, and what do we need to do to change it? And that's it.